the sound of people gathering this morning. I see hugs, smiles. That's wonderful. I'm Jean Spitzer. I'm the worship associate with Amy here today. This congregation creates its warmth this morning through the smiles of welcome to each of you who chooses to join us. If you're willing, please stand and we'll bring a microphone to you if you'd like to introduce yourself. I know I see some new faces and some old ones, but that's okay. Active seniors.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having us. My name is Margaret Beckman. I'm here with Christy Stout. We're visiting Kathy and Diane, and it's lovely to be here. We're from UU Castine, Maine.
There is a personal courtesy in silencing possible noise interruptions, laughing excluded. The words this morning as part of our ceremony of lighting the chalice are by Maya Angelou. Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. We light our chalice in honor of that love.
I'm so glad to be here on this slightly nippy Martin Luther King Sunday. I want to preface this service by saying that there are some words that Dr. King uses in his writing that we don't hear much anymore, words like Negro. So I want to put those in the context of the time they were written. He uses language that at the time it was written was the absolute most polite way to say many things. So please hold that in your hearts as we read things that may sound offensive to us today. As a little housekeeping piece, we know that COVID is rising again in the area, so you will see that we have more people with masks on. This is a reminder from me and from your board. If you are feeling ill, please, please test before you come to church or stay home and join us on Zoom. And if you have any sort of symptoms, please, please mask. We are not requiring masking back in the church yet. We're hoping not to have to do that. But we are being very cautious. We're going to continue not to turn and face one another during the last song. And when you greet your neighbors, I'm going to ask that you really don't breathe on them. You know, say a quick hi, but please keep it under control. You know, it's always hard to figure out how to start a service about Martin Luther King Jr. And I chose a piece of his called Extremist of Justice because it puts things in such context. And Dr. King wrote this: "The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie nor establish truth. Through violence you murder the hater, but you do not murder hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding a deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." He asked this: "The question is not whether we will be extremist, but what kind of extremist we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or extremists of justice?" What an amazing couple of questions. So let us walk in light and love and justice together as we explore this today, and come and let us worship here together. Our first hymn this morning is going to be one that comprises the spirit of the civil rights movement. We're going to sing number 169, "We Shall Overcome." So please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing number 169, "We Shall Overcome." Every time I hear that, it does something right here. Our children's chapel today is a little different because I have a story I want to tell us. And this is adapted from How the Children of Birmingham Changed the Civil Rights Movement by Lottie Joyner. 61 years ago, in 1963, thousands of students, children, left their classrooms and they marched on downtown Birmingham, Alabama. And their children's crusade changed a nation. Charles Avery was one of those students. He left his high school in Jefferson County, Alabama, to head with about 800 fellow students on a 10-mile walk to Birmingham City. And they were stopped by the sheriff's department and arrested and jailed. I was put in the paddy wagon. And if you don't know what a paddy wagon is, it's like a big van, and it had bars at the back then in the windows, and benches inside. And if a bunch of people got arrested, they made you sit there, and it's how you went to jail. So he was 17 years old. He was put in the paddy wagon. He was president of his senior class. He said, "I'll never forget that day." In 1963, Birmingham, Alabama was known as one of the most racist cities in the South. Martin Luther King Jr. described it as a symbol of hardcore resistance to integration. They didn't want black and white people doing anything together. Activists called it Bombingham. Reverend James Bevel, the leader of a group called the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, who was an advisor to Dr. King, came up with the idea of a protest made up of children. And in May of 1963, they launched the Children's Crusade and started a march to Birmingham. And by the time little Charles Avery had made it to the city on May 7th, more than 3,000 black children and young people were marching on the city. Dr. King's words inspired 16-year-old Raymond Goolsby to participate. Dr. Martin Luther King stood beside me, remembers Goolsby, who is now 66. He said, "I think it's a mighty fine thing for children, what you're doing, because when you march, you're really standing up." And Dr. King said to him, "A man can't ride your back unless it's bent." On May 2nd, Goolsby joined thousands of students who left their classrooms and gathered at the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, and they lined them up in groups of 50 to march. Goolsby was in one of the first groups. They got arrested a block and a half into the march. The next day, the police, led by Bull Connor. Some of the grown-ups in the room know who Bull Connor was, but what I can say is he was mean. He brought out fire hoses and attack dogs against children. And you can imagine how scared these kids were. They were marching in groups of 50, and here comes this scary white man and a bunch of police, and they used hoses from the fire trucks, and they had German Shepherd dogs. And it caused headlines across the world. Pictures of the bravery and determination of the Birmingham children as they faced brutal fire hoses and vicious police dogs were splashed on the front pages of newspapers all across America. It turned the tide of public opinion in support of civil rights and their movement to fight for justice. Jessie Shepherd was 16 when she was soaked and loaded up into a paddy wagon. Her parents had told her she wasn't allowed to go. She said, "I was tired of the injustice." She said, "I couldn't understand why there had to be a colored fountain and a white fountain. Why couldn't I drink out of the fountain the other kids drank out of?" So she marched. And the jails got so overcrowded with 3,000 little kids that they start sending them to the fairgrounds where they slept on cots and they sang freedom songs while they waited to get bailed out. Gwen Gamble had just been released from jail at 15 because she had the guts to go eat lunch at a white lunch counter. She was arrested. So she had just gotten out. Her and her two sisters were trained to be activists. They led a part of the march. They left the church with their picket signs and their walking shoes. Some of us had our raincoats because we knew we were going to get hosed down and we were prepared. Under intense public pressure, Birmingham negotiated a truce with King, and on May 10th, Bull Connor was removed from his position. If it had not been for a bunch of children aged 7 to 18, the tide of the civil rights movement may not have turned for years, but little kids you guys' age, walked, talked, protested, made it to the front page of the paper, and you changed the world. So when we think about the civil rights movement, one of the things we always have to think about is the fact that if it weren't for the children, what would have happened? The kids made it possible. And with that wonderful thought, I am going to turn it over to Jan and the choir.
Good morning. My name is Kendra Muntz, and along with Pat Wellington, we have the joy of presenting you the last 15-minute salute in the sequence. Okay? I know that may disappoint some of you, and some of you may be very happy. Okay, this is the salute to building UU bridges. In the beginning of UCOV in 1998, we joined the Florida UU Southwest cluster of congregations, including Bradenton on the north, Sarasota, Venice, Port Charlotte, Fort Myers, and Naples. And you can see the dots on the screen. Those are where our 6 congregations in a cluster existed. We held 2 gatherings each year in different congregations in the cluster, an annual meeting and a luncheon in the spring, and a fall meeting and a luncheon with workshops on different aspects of congregational life and best practices for each, including outreach, caring, public relations, volunteer engagement, and more. We learned from each other. The big congregations helped the little ones. There was synergy and excitement. There was also a statewide Florida district that held an annual assembly in the spring, typically in Orlando. The Florida district continued until 2013, when it was incorporated into the southern region of 12 states. And you'll see the southern region is in the red. All of those 12 are where we are now and how we relate to the UUA. And also in 2013, the UU Legislative Ministry of Florida, which was a committee of the Florida District, had to form its own 501c3 and became UU Justice Florida, our statewide action network. Its mission is, quote, to promote justice, equity, and compassion in public policy, guided by our faith tradition and working with public interest groups and interfaith partners who work for the common good. And this is a slide of some of the actions of UU Justice Florida, where we've worked in the state, we've gone to other states. That's Bishop Carter William Barber, thank you very much. Actually, he was a GA at one point, as well as leading moral movements. And until 2019, UU Justice Florida led annual trips to Tallahassee to meet with legislators on bills of concern. And we met with other groups, including Save Our Schools. Various partners joined us. It was a lot of fun. Currently, UU Justice Florida maintains a monthly newsletter highlighting important bills before the legislature, along with the work of UU congregations all over Florida. And one of our regular attendees from UCOV to Tallahassee, Brad Harden. Where are you, Brad? Are you here today? Brad Harden, there he is, okay? He has driven us to Tallahassee, the 5-hour drive, many times, participated with legislators, and he's a wonderful person, as you know. He has started a network, a statewide UU network for sharing letters to the editor, which are documented ways to impact both residents and elected officials. Because of the pandemic, there was a vast increase in digital newspapers, and hundreds of thousands of people are now receive their newspapers online. And frankly, elected officials at all levels are known to regularly check the letters to the editor. So letters are great, and those of you who help, thank you so much. This exciting little slide is what shows the 35 congregations that Brad has contacted to participate in our Letters to the Editor network. And the dots show where the congregations are, UU congregations, and the sparkles, the little stars, are showing the relative size of the media markets. And you see that Miami is the largest media market in Florida, but there are many others that are sizable. Tampa, Orlando, various places have good media markets. So if you send a letter and it's shared with congregations, that can reach a lot of people in Florida. And in addition, several Florida clusters, the UU clusters that we used to have, are still active today. Primarily the Northeast cluster and the Southeast cluster, which is now called the UU Florida Sunshine Cluster. This is their logo. Isn't it great? Together, we are better. That's their motto. And that cluster, which has been very dynamic out of Fort Lauderdale, is now going to expand statewide and have their two meetings a year on Zoom as well as in person in Fort Lauderdale. So those people who are interested all over the state can participate. Some of us might want to join them as well. They have meetings on different subjects that are important to people in many, many ways. Okay. So, although the Southwest cluster that we were in stopped functioning years ago, a new concept in regional cooperation is blooming, sparked by John Van Camp, and who created the Social Justice Alliance of the Florida Suncoast, starting in the southwest area of Florida and expanding. Right now, it is partnering with a group called Floridians for Democracy out of Fort Myers, and that group is also partnering with UU Justice Florida. John's group is partnering with Choose Democracy Now out of Sarasota, and with VICA, the Venice Interfaith Community Association. And other organizations are coming in every day, and individuals who share the values of the Social Justice Alliance of the Florida Suncoast and are working to foster a more equitable and inclusive society. So VICA, as you remember, was founded by our first UCOV minister, the Reverend Suzanne Nazian. VICA includes the Baha'i of Sarasota County, Blue Lotus Meditation Center, Emmanuel Lutheran Church, the Jewish Congregation of Venice, Mary Mother of Jesus Inclusive Catholic Community, Suncoast Metropolitan Community Church, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice, and Venice United Church of Christ. VICA's mission is to foster cooperation, respect, and understanding among people of different faith, ethnic, and cultural traditions. And here's a special note. VICA's 2024 winter series of programs entitled Turning Passionate Polarization into Compassionate Community will be held at the Venice United Church of Christ, Nar Hall, on 3 Monday evenings coming up January 22, 29, and February 5 at 7 p.m. They're not to be missed. Please go to VeniceInterfaith.org to sign up, or look for the VICA brochures at our social justice table on the lanai. So for sure, our UU connections in Florida are blooming.
Greetings, I'm Pat Wellington, and I am here to talk to you about a chart. Are we going to put up the chart, Tom? Okay. All right, that's the chart. All right, let's take a look at it. This is how UCOV fits into the current organizational structure of the Unitarian Universalist Association. If we see the national statistics, which are at the bottom, no, that's us. We have Unitarian Universalist Associations. Oh yeah, that's the one national. 22.7% in RE program. And then you look at the southern region, it goes down to 16%, Florida 8%, and UCOV 3.5%. We always talk about needing younger people, children for our RE program, but that's the demographics that we have in our area, so that helps explain a lot of it. The next slide, please. Kendra described the local and statewide alliances now forming There are also national and international UU connections we can make. One of the best ways is through the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Maybe many of you remember our past efforts to get 100% of us to join, which we did back in 2004, I believe it is. Here it is. The UUSC is a nonprofit, non-sectarian associate member organization of the UU Association that works to provide disaster relief and promote human rights and social justice around the world. It started in 1940 when its founders helped thousands of refugees escape war-torn Europe. Hans Deutsch, an Austrian artist, first brought together the chalice and the flame as a symbol of Unitarianism during his work with the Unitarian Service Committee during World War II. The flaming chalice has become the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Here's a short video about the values expressed in the work of the UU Service Committee. Well, that was short. So Human Rights Teach-In Day was October 10th, 2023. One way UCOF has participated in the UU Service Committee is the Guest at Your Table program. UUSC's annual intergenerational program, Guest at Your Table, raises support for and awareness about key human rights issues worldwide. In 2004, 100% of UCOVers participated in this program. And I have out on the social justice table some membership envelopes. if you'd like to renew or join the UUSC. Now we have is this the short video?
Did you know that Unitarian Universalists have been coming together for decades to support human rights through the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Guest at Your Table program? During this special program, UUs of all ages learn more about important issues and the groups, or partner organizations, UUSC works together with to advance human rights. Working with community-based groups like UUSC Partners is a great way to get help directly to folks after disasters like a hurricane, and helps make sure the needs that are most important to communities are being met. UUSC works with more than 50 partner organizations around the globe, together responding to humanitarian crises, gender-based violence, persecution of activists, climate change, and more. Guest at Your Table is a chance to get to know our partners and these issues better through learning the stories of 4 people connected to UUSC partners as if we were sharing a meal together. They are the guests in Guest at Your Table. After getting to know the guests, UU spread the word about human rights and raise much-needed funds for UUSC partners. From supporting youth leadership trainings, to amplifying their voices to world leaders, to buying needed supplies after a natural disaster, our partners request our help with all sorts of projects that make a difference in their communities. Through Guest at Your Table, Unitarian Universalists form a mighty web that helps support UUSC partners in their important work. Thank you for helping keep this important tradition going strong and joining us in the Guest at Your Table program.
The 2024 Guest at Your Table theme is Pursuing Liberation. There are many other national and international programs affiliated with the UUA, including the Unitarian Universalist College of Social Justice, whose mission is to inspire and sustain effective and spiritually grounded activism for justice, and whose programs and collaborations are designed to help people across boundaries gain insight, imagine new ways, and learn new skills to make a difference in the world. The College of Social Justice and other programs are described on the UUA website, uua.org. We hope you will explore the many ways we can learn and benefit from UU programs and have some fun at our annual UUA General Assemblies as well in years to come. And that is the end.
Well, thank you all for that salute. This is our offering time in our service, and today's plate is designated for Second Chance Last Opportunity, which is a community-based 501c3 grassroots organization. It's been offering life management skills classes to at-risk teens and their low-income or homeless families since 1995. As always, our offering is done with levity because giving should never hurt. A UU minister fresh out of seminary was called to a UU church, and he hadn't made enough money yet to buy dress clothing, so he wore his black clergy shirt with the white collar insert every day. A little boy, not accustomed to seeing a UU minister in this kind of clothing, went up to the minister and said, "Why do you dress so funny?" And the minister said, "This is the uniform that I wear when I work." And the child still stared at him and said, "Do you have a boo-boo?" And the minister was puzzled, but he figured out that the little boy was looking at the white collar inset of his black and white clergy collar. And he quickly pulled out the white plastic inset, and he showed it to the child, and he said, "This is part of my uniform." And on the back side of the collar, there was some raised writing. It said, "Wash with warm, soapy water." And the minister showed this to the little boy and said, "Do you know what these words say?" Well, the little boy was obviously much too young to read, and he said very confidently, "I sure do." The minister was taken aback and said, "Okay, what did they say?" The child put his hands on his hips and said proudly, "Kills fleas and ticks for up to 6 months." So that I can afford my new tick medicine, the morning offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you all so much for your generosity to this community. Because we all know that the church isn't the building, but the people, and it's as a community of human hands and human hearts that we come together to share our laughter and our tears. We're entering into a time of sharing joys and concerns. You can raise a hand, someone will bring you a microphone. Please share information only with permission. Before or during the service, you're always welcome to come up and light a candle on the candle table. During Joys and Concerns, we will light them for you. So if you have something you want to share, please raise your hand.
Good morning. Kathy and I are sharing our joy of having our wonderful friends Margaret and Christy visit from Maine, where we spend half of our lives. And the joy is sharing our lives here with them and our communities. One thing Margaret failed to mention when she introduced herself is that she is a recently retired UU minister. So we thought that we would out her and let you know that information. It's a great joy to have them. Another thing is that we've been friends for half my life, so use your math skills to estimate how long that has been.
I have two important things to say today. I hope you will agree. Yesterday we had a wonderful event here, Maury, Jazz with Maury. Unfortunately, it was not well attended, and Maury is facing an existential crisis. These are wonderful programs. I've never been to one that wasn't just phenomenal, and his connections to the performing world are so great that he brings in the best people. So I'm going to ask you all to put this on your radar, and if you can come and bring a friend or two or three, it would be just a very good thing. So thank you. The other thing is to say that in 1961, two black individuals walked in the front door of the library in Petersburg, Virginia, as opposed to going in through the basement entrance, which was labeled for color. The library was quickly closed. 3 weeks later, without fanfare or news or whatever, the library reopened. The colored entrance was gone. And nothing more was said. And this began to transition for Petersburg, Virginia, and slowly but surely everything changed. You know, the colored water fountains went away, the school systems started an effort to change. So one of the things that I would like to say about this is that for all the Birminghams and all the Georgias and so on and so forth, there were millions of people who agreed that, with a sense of fairness, it was time for many people. And I don't want to say too much, but I want to say that the non-black community can pat itself on the back in the sense that, you know, with credit to the people who protested and raised our consciousness, it was us who made the changes. Well, it was, we had the power and the legislation, and we had the sense. There were communities like Petersburg, Virginia, who, without the struggle, made changes. Many communities. So it's not to oversay, you know, not to make us into saints, but we do need to recognize that. And now we're facing a new crisis, much the same way. And so it's up to us to have that same sense of fairness and support the efforts that are needed and vote and so on and so forth of that way. But we don't need to wait for it to be forced. In any case, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May the love of this community hold all who need love and concern, and may the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted and tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant.
This is the time for meditation. Today we will honor that by reading words written by Martin Luther King. I want to give you a little bit of history. In 1963, he was president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and he led a march in Birmingham and was arrested. And this has become famous, but it's called Letter from Birmingham Jail. When you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over, and men are no longer willing to be plunged into an abyss of injustice where they experience the bleakness of corroding despair. I hope, sirs, you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience. I forgot to mention, this was a letter to clergymen who were criticizing him and urging him not to stir things up, not to be so visible and a target. With these words in mind, please join me in 1 minute of silent meditation, thought, or prayer. This next reading is a continuation of that 1963 letter to the clergymen, where Reverend Martin Luther King was in jail, incarcerated. As I was preparing for this, perhaps these words will bite your heart as it did mine. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feel that he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient time or season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. We will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. We must come to see that human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and persistent work of men willing to be co-workers with God, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. Please rise up as you are willing and able as we sing hymn 156, O Freedom.
I don't know about you, but when I was a little bit younger, every once in a while I'd do something stupid and I'd get told, don't be so childish, come on, grow up. There's even a verse most of us have heard at some point that says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, and I reasoned like a child. And when I became an adult, I put away childish things. That's entered into our kind of common cultural vernacular. You know, kids have limited knowledge, and they think in limited ways based on limited experience. It doesn't mean that children aren't intelligent. It means that their experience doesn't know what it doesn't know yet. So if you were a 4-year-old, for example, if someone had offered you one wish, what is your dearest dream? Think for a minute about the things you might have said at 4. You would not have said, internet notwithstanding, no 4-year-old says, Mother, I dream of world peace. No 4-year-old says, I would like for there to be equal rights between people of all colors and names. They don't say that. A 4-year-old says, I wish for an ice cream. 4-year-old says, I want a pony or a new Squishmallow. They want something they've seen, something they could touch or taste or cuddle. And if your life was one of poverty and danger, you might wish at 4 for more food, or a warmer house, or medicine for your mama. But you would not be able to articulate a dream of global socioeconomic justice. That being said, in 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was far from a child. He was a child of his times, however. In his I Have a Dream speech, he said, there are those who are asking of the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horror of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from the smaller ghetto to the larger. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs saying for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of the great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow city jails. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and the ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And in 1963, these words were amazing, and they still ring out for us today. But it's a dream of a younger time. It's a dream that says, in part, I dare to think of a day where Black people can have the white American dream. I dare to think of a day when a Black man in a suit will be given respect, and when a Black woman can shop at any store she chooses. I dare to imagine a world where we won't be brutalized for the color of our skin, and where our kids can go to school anywhere they please, where we can buy the house with the white picket fence and join the local Lions Club and swim in the community pool. This is a dream. But it's time to dream bigger. It's time to dream in ways that Dr. King would have been killed for even imagining. Because 61 years later, our movement is no longer a young movement. How many of you have been walking and running with this movement for most of your lives? Unarmed Black men and women and children are routinely shot and strangled and tased to death by police officers in the streets. Little black boys are killed within 3 seconds of the police car arriving because they have toy guns in their hand. According to the Race and Crime Center for Justice, black people make up 14% of Florida's population and 48% of the state's prison population. Black people are incarcerated at 3 times their percentage in the population and 6 times the rate of white people. Maybe it's time that we stop dreaming. Maybe it's time we wake up and we start fighting. Maybe it's time to fight for a world in which black people can dare to dream not of being restricted to acting just like white people, but of being respected while black. Maybe it's time to fight for their right to be respected while wearing black natural hairstyles, while clothing themselves in clothing that they choose. Maybe it's time to recognize that black lives don't matter also, they matter, period. Black doesn't need to be judged in terms of white. Black culture and lives need to be recognized on their own merit, and we can win this fight together, starting here and now. I don't ask you to take on the world. Take on your own family. Take on your friends. Take on the shops where you shop and the places where you work. Help to make it safe for black people to be black people, not imitation white people. Use your privilege. Vote. Make your voices heard. And let the dream grow up, and let the dream wake up, and let it become reality. We have a dream, and it's one Dr. King couldn't have dared speak out loud. A dream of true equality, a dream of choice, a dream of recognition of all people. And these words from Dr. King still hold true. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley will be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough pieces made plain and the crooked places straight. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, and to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will all be free one day. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Florida. But not only that, let freedom ring from the Stone Mountains of Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. Let freedom ring from Florida. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring from every village and every hamlet and every state and every city, then we can all stand up together and say, free at last, free at last. We are free at last. Amen. May the light of our chalice accompany us into the world as a guiding beacon where we can turn these dreams into reality. Please rise in body or spirit as you are willing, and let's sing number 1018, Come and Go With Me. and live in hope. Peace, ashe, and may it be so. I've got one quick announcement, and then she has a couple. Next week, really important, right after church, we're going to have a quick conversation. There has been a potential amendment for the Article 2 discussion that we have a chance to make something happen. The amendment that they'd like to see is that the 7 principles, no matter what, the 7 principles get kept as a preamble, at least to the bylaws. That's a pretty cool idea, so that no matter what happens, the 7 principles don't go anywhere. We kind of like them. So, we're going to explain in detail next week, right after the service, what the idea that's come up is. What we are going to vote on by Zoom later that night. Do we want to be one of the 15 congregations signing on so that this amendment idea can go to the UUA? We're not voting, like we can't make it happen by voting, but we can decide to be one of the 15 congregations they need to sponsor it. So if you want to learn more, come next week, stay for a couple minutes afterward, and I think, Pat, you're going to be there, I'll be there, we'll explain what the bigger idea is. Next week in the evening, I think around 6, we're going to hold a brief Zoom meeting so you can vote on, do you want to do this? So that's my 2 cents. Jean, you got any announcements, or is it just read the back of your form?
Yeah. Are we staying today after trip?
Huh?
Are we staying today about?
Yeah, today we are talking, the board will be here, we're going to be talking about safety. So please feel free to stay today after you get your cup of coffee and a little snack.
What? Pathways. There is a sign up out on the lanai for pathways.
Can I just say, Jean?
Yes, Annie.
Pathways will be in Waters Hall. If you don't know where it is, it's the bluish gray house on the left as you come into our campus. And we have lunch for those of you who are joining us for Pathways. So yes, we'll still be there.
Okay, before Serena speaks to what's happening on January 20th, let me just zip through these announcements. Thanks to Bill Colagrande, the first annual UCOB lip sync competition will take place in 2 weeks. There is a sign up on the lanai. You too can be a pop star. Sign up today, another clipboard out there for small community meals known as revolving dinners in the lanai. It's really a great way to meet other members of the congregation and share good food. Join Kathy Avery for Skeptics and Believers next Sunday, and that should be on the back. I haven't double checked. Please speak to Kathy, who's head of religious education. Build Your Own Theology, which is led by Reverend Amy.
Kathy this time.
Kathy Avery this time will be starting in February. Guess what? There's another clipboard back there where you can sign up. I think that course runs, when I took it goes for about 6 weeks. Okay. Now, this is the very important spotlight time for Serena.
No.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. I think you've seen enough of me, and you won't see that much of me in the future. More than half of you, about 95 people, have signed up for our luncheon next Saturday at the plantation. And I just want to say to you, it starts at 11:30. But what that means is you have to be eating your salad at 11:30, which will be on the table in front of you. So if you can get there a little bit before 11:30, that will help move the process along. I think many of you have ordered salmon, which is a great dish, and anybody who wants to sign up, you still can. Okay, the plantation has this system where you have to give them a particular number by a particular date, which was why I was pressing everybody to sign up by that particular date. But I can take a few more. We're inching towards 100. So if you are still interested in attending, there is a sign-up sheet. Oh, vegetarian options, yes, thank you. There are vegetarian, so there's 3 options: chicken, salmon, and vegetarian options. And we have a very short, compact program that I think you will enjoy. It won't be like the program that I heard so much about in November. It'll be a little bit shorter and a little bit more relevant. Thank you.